Um, it's interesting as we're just going to step into this talk about growth. It's interesting because I was running a little bit late, if you can tell, just starting a couple of minutes late, working through a few things. But it's interesting because we have a tendency to make excuses for things and for why growth is not happening and why things are not going the way they're supposed to go. And in that time of trying to excuse why it's not happening, we have a tendency to blame others. And so I was thinking, as I was preparing for this, that this season is a little bit different in television as it used to be. We have a little construction thing going on downstairs. So if you hear any background noise, it's just we have some refrigerator issues that are being fixed. So, but I remember years ago, you could watch TV, you turn on TV and there would be a judge show, you turn on TV, there would be a talk show. And it was just a season of pointing fingers at people, pointing fingers for lack of growth, pointing fingers because I didn't have this opportunity, pointing fingers because this happened or that this didn't happen. And I was just thinking, there's not as many of those kind of court shows on TV right now, and there's not as many of those kinds of talk shows, those Jerry Springers, Maury Povich. There may be, but I don't remember. I don't see them just if I'm clicking, but I don't really watch that kind of regular TV either. So, but you just don't hear about them. You don't hear about all the Judge Judy People's Court has been around forever. I don't even know if that's still on. Maybe it is. Maybe there's still the same kind of climate. But I remember thinking then that it was quite easy to blame someone else for your problems and blame someone else for your lack of growth and blame someone else for your inability to achieve something. It was kind of like a thing to do. And I wonder how many of us have grown in the last 10 years in that kind of mindset, and to where we really want to just point the finger at someone else because something's not happening. And the truth of the matter, there may be circumstances, there may be things that arise that hinder you, that hold you back, but it doesn't stop you from growing, and it shouldn't stop you from becoming who you're supposed to be. You'll always have unfortunate circumstances. You'll always have things that try to delay you, things that try to put you behind schedule, things that try to take you off of your game. I realized something that, you ever heard the statement, the term, the devil is in the details. Now, you can look at that two ways, that if I look at the details, I'll see the demonic or see the devil, or I can realize that the real danger is found in the details. I realize that I don't pay attention to details when I'm in a hurry, or if I feel like there's an urgency or an opportunity is coming, and I just yes, give it to me, and I just don't look at the details. And when you don't look at the details, that's when your downfall comes. And so when you choose not to grow, because growth demands that you look at the details. Growth demands that you understand the details. Growth demands that you look at every single little part. If you're going to grow, you must look at every part. And the more you look at each part, the more you understand that part, and the more you grow, and you understand how to use it, or how to attack it, or how to overcome it, or how to whatever you need from that point of growing, that strategy. The strategy demands that you look at each part. So we're going to just jump into this session of growth. And I was contemplating not having another session on growth after this, but there's still content that I want to show. And I feel like I may be drawing out growth too long, but the reason I have this part longer than any of the other aspects of the training system that I've developed, I'm going to give you a screenshot here, is because people don't think growth is important, and they don't like the subject. They don't like to talk about it. And we're going to look at a little bit of that today. But if we can become people who choose to grow, who just put ourselves in a demand of growing, and we choose to grow on purpose. I have all this stuff open. Sorry about that. Then we find ourselves as people, when we choose not to grow. We choose not to grow. We choose to conform. And conformity, as John F. Kennedy says, conformity is the jailer of freedom. No one wants to be imprisoned by anything. No one wants to be imprisoned by by lack or poverty. Can I tell you, I believe the reason we're doing Berry Busters is I really, really, really want to destroy poverty. I really want to destroy lack, but it doesn't start with just giving another meal. It doesn't start with giving another thing. It starts with educating people on how growth happens. And so growth needs to take place. And the reason Berry Buster exists is to destroy poverty, to really break the rules in a person's life, break the caste system in a person's life. And when you can break the caste system in the person's life, it literally raises them to another level and releases them from the conformity and moves them into a place of freedom. If you don't know, I think I have this book. This is one of my, I have like 3 or 4 copies all around my house. But Think and Grow Rich is an amazing book. It's an absolute wonderful book. Do you know the reason he wrote this book? One of the reasons he wrote this book, Napoleon Hill wrote this book for the sake of breaking poverty off of people's lives. He really wanted the ethnic Americans and ethnic community to understand the process of growth and the process of wealth. And he wrote this. He wrote this book with poverty breaking in mind. Can I just encourage you, if you choose to grow, you're choosing to break poverty off of your family, off of your life, you will achieve, you will prosper, you will succeed. I have a goal. I have a pretty audacious, outrageous goal. And I want to use Berry Buster to do it. I want to raise 1,000 millionaires. I want them to start. They may be, making $500,000 a year, and then they hit $1 million. That's fine. But I want to take people from the whatever class you're in, whatever level you're in, feed whatever we need inside educationally, and then let's grow. Let's grow into the point where we can grow. If we can grow into becoming millionaires internally, you can grow externally. And so it starts with this: think and grow rich. Think like a rich person, you'll grow into a rich person. Think like a poor person, you'll grow into a poor person. Think like a minister, you'll grow into a minister. Think like a singer, you'll grow into a singer. Think like an artist, you'll grow into an artist. Whatever it is, if you think like it, you'll grow into it. And so this is the whole premise, is we're going to get you to think a certain way, because if you own the psychology of it, you will grow into that, whatever the psychology you own. One of the things I learned when probably another book I can grab off the shelf here is I learned the generational and wanted to study generational poverty. Where does poverty come from? Where does generational poverty come from? What is generational poverty? And there's 2 aspects of poverty. One is a poverty that you're born into. That's generational, one that's passed on from generation to generation. And then there's circumstantial poverty. And circumstantial poverty is someone who, let's say the economic crash happened and they had all of their money in real estate, or they had all of their money in something that just plummeted in tanked, and they lost everything. And in order for you to be really impoverished, it's not just losing your money, it's not just losing your capital, it's not just losing your resources, actually resources of finances, your materials, not just that, but it's also losing your relational resources. It's losing every kind of resource there is. So a person who is impoverished or in poverty, this is taking a little bit of turn today, but I want to talk about the person who's in poverty is a person who has lost their resources, financial resources, their emotional resources, their relational resources. They literally have no more resources, and they've lost all margin in life. And they find themselves in a very challenged position. I have been talking to a lot of people lately about helping the homeless. We are working on a project in Washington, D.C. on how to help the homeless and giving them barrier busters in order to change their thinking, in order to bring them out of the thinking of where they are, whether it's, and there's some things that are chemical, but there's some things that are just emotional, some things that are just mental, and we can heal them, we can help them. And so bring them out of that so that they can step into a place of society again, where they gain their margin back, where they gain everything back that belongs to them, that they should have. And so and that's one aspect. When you lose everything, that's one aspect. That's circumstantial. Circumstantial means it can change anytime. Generational is something a little more challenging. It means my grandfather was poor, my grandmother was poor, my mother was poor, and then now poverty has visited me. And the study is that it says that generational poverty only happens because because a child watches the way a parent handles a circumstance. So a parent may be in a circumstance as to even circumstantial poverty, but by how the parent handles it, how the parent speaks, and by how the parent talks, and by how the parent, that determines whether or not that child will also inherit poverty. So if you are driving by, and I remember times of this when I was young, and my parents, my grandmother didn't know any different. My family didn't know anything. I didn't know any different until I studied it. We would drive by and we say, "Hey, can I have a Happy Meal?" I don't think they had Happy Meal when I was little. I remember the Big Macs just were coming out, and I wanted a Big Mac because I was tired of the little tiny hamburgers. So I wanted the Big Mac. So I asked for a Big Mac. Well, we couldn't afford the Big Mac. So that's what my grandmother said. Well, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. I would love to give it to you, but we can't afford it. That immediately told me and started to instill poverty in me, not because my grandmother was mean or bad, but because that's where we were. That was the position. So what I've learned, that if I'm going to grow, if my grandmother were to grow, we would have to grow and find a different way. Well, I can't get it right now, but we'll set it on the calendar to get it right now, and never mention the reason we can't get it. We can't mention that we can't get it because we can't afford it. Because the moment you mention you can't afford it, it now instills poverty. It instills lack, and instills scarcity. So you've got to grow out of that mindset. You got to grow out of the mindset of lack. You have to grow out of the mindset of scarcity. You have to grow out of the mindset of poverty. And especially if it's been instilled in you from a child, if it's something that you have inherited impoverished thinking, you've inherited poverty in your mind. Now, you may have had money, but just the way that the conversation is, the conversation instills the poverty. The reality enforces the poverty. So you keep driving by the Golden Arches, you can't get the hamburger, cheeseburger, whatever burger there is. You can't get that. That's now confirming the words, and now we're impoverished. Now that carries on generationally, where generationally there's always a reason, financial reason you can't go on, the financial reason you can't do this, the financial reason we can't do that. That's not what we want. But we have solutions. We have a solution. Okay, this right now, we're not going to get this, but let's now establish a solution. Let's put away 5 pennies a day, and then we'll go and get that on the day. So now we've changed it from poverty to growth, to a season of growth. Now we are going to have a strategy and a plan to achieve it. And we're no longer thinking impoverished, because in poverty, I can now blame everyone else for what I don't have. I can blame, it's my baby mama, daddy drama, whatever circumstance there is, I can blame someone. It's my teacher who said I was stupid. My teacher said I was stupid. My teacher said I was stupid and said I would never accomplish anything, said I would never, ever. My English teacher. And now I think I'm writing today. I'm working on 2 books, rewriting one of them and writing another one. I'm doing that every day, writing. So my teacher didn't know that I would attack their impoverished words by an activity of growing every day. I have to do something every day towards it, because if I don't, I stop growing. So I'm just jumping ahead, but let's get into, I started talking to you. I should be showing you this. So understanding that today, what we're doing is we're destroying poverty. We're overcoming poverty. So I wish I could say, hey, let's destroy poverty, but we're really talking about growth. And if you choose to grow, you choose to destroy poverty, you choose to destroy lack, and you choose to destroy scarcity. Those things are removed in your life when you choose to become a growing person. Conformity is the jailer of freedom. I didn't lose my space. I know exactly where I am. Conformity is the jailer of freedom. So you're going to actually stop conforming to your circumstances. So let's say you don't have enough money for something. Don't conform to that. Don't conform to that. And conformity is the enemy of growth. Don't conform to your enemy, which is the jailer of freedom. Break out of it. How do you break out of it? But I don't have the money to break out of it. You know, it doesn't take money today to make money. Not as much as it used to. If you have an iPhone, you have a phone, you can actually literally, I think I can give you a strategy. If you could come up with 5 ideas, 5 thoughts, you could go and get a free phone, even a prepaid phone, a free phone that has the ability to record, put up some YouTube. I mean, there's many ways that you can actually just start making money without having millions of dollars. You may need a little money, but the fact is you're not going to need a lot of money. because there's opportunities. There's opportunities. My some of the opportunities that I have engaged in were simply by asking the person who didn't want it anymore, could I have it? I mean, I didn't know anything about having a magazine or a newspaper business, but the moment the person said they didn't want it and they were going to shut it down, I thought, well, why shut it down? Let's see if we can resurrect it. Let's see if we can do something with it. So I just simply asked, can I have it? Can I have that? Yeah, no problem. It's a headache off of my shoulders. Here, have it. I've done that with so many different businesses. Not some are successful, some have morphed into other things, and some just didn't. It wasn't worth to keep going. So we just kind of broke it apart, and that's what a lot of people do. They buy businesses, they acquire businesses to break them apart and sell them off, as is. And I did that with a vending company. So it wasn't doing what we needed. So we just broke it off, sold each vending machine, and it actually turned out okay financially. So you have to be able to analyze and evaluate things based upon, I can grow into it. And if you can't grow into it, and if it's not going to grow itself, it's not going to grow, then you may have to actually do something different with it. But give it some opportunity. Don't be a conformer to your circumstance. Get all excited. Don't be conforming to your circumstance. Conform, change your circumstances by growing. This is growth equals change. Now, if you want to grow, you have to get in your mind that you are someone who changes. You're changing, and I am a person who has optimism for people. I'm believing the best for people, but there's sometimes I think, you know what? Do leopards actually change? Can they change spots? Can their spots actually change? But the fact is we can. And if a person's not changing, it's because they're not changing. If we don't change, we don't change. And that's it. It just period. If you don't change, you don't change. If you don't work to change, you don't change. If you work a little bit for change, you will change. You may not change as fast as you want to change. You may not change as fast as people want you to change, but you'll change if you keep on changing, keep on working on it. Growth demands surrender of security. You can't be secure if you're going to be someone who chooses to grow. If you're going to be someone who chooses to grow, don't give yourself into that. Now, going back to this homeless poverty mindset for a second, because there's a lot of people that are on the streets. I've interviewed a lot. We've fed a lot. We've gone out and talked to a lot. We've ministered and talked to and served so many different people in homelessness. And the conversation is quite interesting because I find that there's a good number of people, I'm not saying everyone, but there's a good number of people that have, they're there because they like it. So it's secure, it's safe for them. It's a place that they feel safe. They feel like there's no responsibility. So there's a level of just surrender to that, but you have to surrender your security in order to grow. So even if you're going to go out of that poverty, you've got to get them to surrender what they do know, what they do feel comfortable with. They feel comfortable with their friends, their tribe. They feel comfortable with being on the street. They feel comfortable with no responsibility. You have to surrender all of that because growth demands that you surrender security. You have to feel the risk. You have to feel like you're taking a risk every step. You have to feel like you're taking a risk every decision. You have to feel like you're stepping into something that could go wrong. If you don't feel that, you're not growing. If it feels safe all the time, you're not growing. You can't be a person that feels safe and comfortable and grow. If you want to be a world-class athlete, you can't feel secure. You have to feel uncomfortable. You have to feel like there's pressure on you. So you have to make those decisions. 80% of society hates change. So we need to know that change is something that most people don't like. And we have to have a very, very serious reason to change. And we should spend more time in this in the future. But if all of the 80% of society hates change, that means we're dealing with people who hate the change. And at the same time, they only change when there's enough pain and then there's enough pleasure involved. If there's no pain and there's no pleasure involved, their psyche is not going to give their body enough energy, enough endorphins, enough juice to move forward. So we need to know that I'm going to be rewarded for this change. I'm going to be rewarded for this change. If a person doesn't feel like they're going to be rewarded or that the reward doesn't match the change that they have to go through, the metamorphosis that they have to experience, if it's going to be more painful to change than when I actually get it, I'd rather stay with my ice cream bowl and just eat ice cream and enjoy myself, because the fit body is too painful. And I don't know if I'm going to actually get there. And I don't know if I can maintain that, right? Because it's something that you have to continue to do. Then it says in this next thought here, you will never change your life until you change something that you do daily. Change something every day. I'm going to have to end there because I don't like to keep you guys longer, even though I was a few minutes late. I don't like to keep you guys longer. I want to just give you a quick little 20-minute talk, just to encourage you. But I want you to be encouraged today. That I want you to hear the encouragement. The encouragement is this: overcome scarcity, lack, poverty. Overcome any of these things by choosing to be a grower, someone that's going to grow. It is what I was saying earlier. This is where growth starts at 41, 41 to 50. So, just nine of those. We have been going through a lot of conversation on it, but I spent most time, most slides, most conversation is dealing with growth because people don't like growth. And so we want to continue to encourage each other to grow. Continue to put yourself in a circumstance where growth is necessary. Take on projects where you have to grow. Take on businesses and opportunities where you have to grow. It will make you a better person if you choose to grow. And if you don't like growth, choose things that make you grow. That's going to help you, and you'll be a better person. Choose to, if you don't like to cook, choose to say, I'm going to cook once a week, and you'll grow. If there's an opportunity coming at work, take that opportunity and say, you know what, I don't know anything about it, but if you will allow me to grow into it, I'll learn and I'll grow into it. Take on opportunity, take on responsibility, move out of security, because security leads you to poverty. It's your jailer. You're conforming to a safe place, and it's your jailer. It's the enemy of your growth, and it's the jailer of your freedom. Step into a new level of freedom. There's something that I want to bring back to America, something that has been declared, something I'll bring back to the rest of the world. Financial freedom. Let's get it. Let's go after it. Let's be people who are financially free, that I'm not controlled or contained by the amount of money I make or the lack of money I make, that I'm not thinking about those things. Let's move the financial needs to the lowest part of the totem pole of our lives, the lowest place in our lives. So let's drop it low, and let's just make sure that loving people and doing what we're made to do, what we're destined to do here on earth, are priorities. Okay, let's continue to do that. And we can do that if we grow. We'll see you next week, next Tuesday. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.